Come on. Yeah, okay, sure. Oh yeah, of course he's attacking from all the way over there. Holy crap. Great. Should they all be allowed to attack me at the same time like that? That's like, man, whatever. What's up, gamers? This is Signals and Light, a video essay channel dedicated to analyzing the formal elements and aesthetic philosophy of game design, narrative, and media. Getting shot in the back every once in a while is inevitable in an intense action game, but when enemies attack from off-screen as much as or even more than on-screen, a player might wonder what the game designers intended. Is it the entities that the player can see that matter most, or is it the player's meta-awareness of all entities in the arena that matters most?
Even if most of them are God knows where other than on the screen.
Should it be one way or the other? Rather than proposing objective or subjective answers to that question, the thought arises, what does it actually mean when a combat designer talks about this topic? What is the topic even called, and how is it discussed? This essay proposes the term enemy attack cadence. While this isn't an official term used by game developers, it is one proposed to help clarify and understand how enemy attacks work and how to talk about the gameplay systems that make them work and make them understandable by players. This essay is split into multiple parts that break the topic down one piece at a time. The essay won't just talk about getting hit in the back, but rather cover what enemy attack cadence is across the board and analyze all of the ways that different kinds of video games approach it. From these pieces of analysis, the game developers and gamers in the audience,
for you are a gamer, aren't you? Even if you hate it and all the memes make fun of it and some of them say a lot of very degenerate things, own it. Take it back. Become the best version of what a gamer ought to be and come learn about how games work.
What they said. They should be able to clarify some of their own ideas about what they think is fun or important in the combat design of the action games that they play. While the word cadence sounds like it's just referring to the timing of attacks, this essay proposes that it defines the number, frequency, and basic properties of incoming enemy attacks in an action video game. To analyze this topic
in absolutely excruciating detail,
is there any other kind? It makes sense to distill it to its core high-level categories, or rather, pillars. The proposed 4 pillars of enemy attack cadence are timing, proximity, concurrency, and direction. Timing refers to the rate at which one or more enemies activate attacks. Proximity refers to how close the enemy is to the player when the attack activates. And it also captures the difference between melee, ranged, and area of effect attacks. Concurrency refers to how many enemy attacks may execute against the player simultaneously. And lastly, direction refers to where the attacks are coming from relative to the player's position and camera view. While it might be cool or exciting to talk about the best individual attack animations in various outstandingly good action games, these are relatively easy for a player to observe and understand for themselves just through playing. What's much less obvious are the systems that function behind the scenes, allowing the overall experience of enemy attacks and combat encounters to become more or less enjoyable. Most game players and even many game developers take enemy attack cadence for granted. It is a fundamental aspect of all video games that include combat, but it's something that's often outside of the player's control, giving texture to combat without drawing attention to itself. While it may be easy to learn the timings of a punishing boss attack string, to block and dodge all of the absolutely ridiculous fake-outs at all the right times, it's not so easy to notice exactly how many enemies swing their swords or shoot their guns at once, and the rate at which they do so. In games with large encounters, enemy attack cadence becomes more of a feeling, something that a player grows accustomed to over tens or hundreds of hours. Even highly skilled players probably can't quantify the number of seconds between enemy attacks, the number of enemies that attack at the same time, and the circumstances in which they choose to. However, as a result of this texture, players eventually learn what their ideal actions should be,
even if, again, the enemies are literally anywhere other than where the player is currently looking.
What's interesting about the texture of attack cadence, though, is that it's all objective. It's a series of systems and algorithms programmed to work in an authored way, even if there are also always some random numbers involved. Much of this essay will be of the highest value to game developers specifically, particularly aspiring combat designers or gameplay programmers.
But doesn't this whole stylistic flair make the whole thing a little bit less professionally credible?
Yes, so why are you here? Many of the ideas in this survey are not immediately obvious when just playing games, and some utilize solutions that one can only learn on the job or from GDC talks. Also of note, the whole career of combat design can be a matter of some luck, as aspiring combat designers can end up stuck in other design roles without a clear path to learn about combat development tools and enter this specific subfield. But while this essay comes from the perspective of a combat designer who works on designing enemies and AI for action games, it should still be approachable for gamers who enjoy thinking about how games work. There is also an aim towards expression that reaches beyond the topic at hand, but gamers should be used to these sorts of weird meta things that at times feel strange and tangential, raising questions like, who is this? And why do they look like some kind of blood cult? Presumably, the intent is for the performative presentation to draw you into the content more. The underlying premise here is that one's enjoyment of media is subjective, but the building blocks that form media are objective. This is what is meant in saying this channel analyzes formal principles. Sometimes the better that one understands how the building blocks work and fit together, the clearer one's mind can become about why they enjoy the things that they do. Video games have evolved a lot.
Video games have come a long way
since Pac-Man.
But many of the evolutions in enemy attack cadence specifically are invisible to players despite defining the landscape within which those players enjoy,
or absolutely despise,
killing hundreds of enemies. And so this essay sets out to do two major things. First, it creates a catalog of all the major tools in the toolbox that come together to make enemy attack cadence possible, including tools that players won't be aware of that are hidden in behind-the-scenes systems. Second, it explains how developers use these tools and why a team would use them in those ways. While the uses might seem obvious on the surface, every tool has a handful of subtleties that can trip developers up, and many games struggle to find their best identity due to implementation losing sight of these subtleties. However, let it be said that the goal here is not to establish authoritative design doctrine. This essay does not prescribe how games should work, but instead studies and shares information about how they can work. While combat can be reduced to pressing buttons to destroy game objects, the truth is that the medium of simulated game violence is a vast aesthetic space.
Because, after all, humans are a race so bloodthirsty that they must create blood out of signals and light, polygons and code, and all sorts of other fakeries, just to entertain themselves.
There are so many ways to do it, and who enjoys which ways and why are questions that will never cease to have new answers. And so this essay is broken into 7 parts. The next part will define a handful of core concepts that will help the subsequent parts make more sense. The parts after that will take each pillar of enemy attack cadence and dump out its whole design toolbox. The breakdown of each pillar will lay out a framework for understanding how its tools work, how to talk about them, and how to apply them within different game contexts. After the essay has methodically emptied all of these toolboxes, the last part will present a handful of major takeaways regarding how designing, accounting for, and working around enemy attack cadence affects the overall design and development of action games. So, as defined, enemy attack cadence accounts for many of the tools and methods through which enemy attacks in action games work, how often attacks happen, how attacks travel through space, and where attacks come from. The next part of the essay will define in detail what an enemy attack actually is, as well as a couple of core design concepts that help to make enemy attack cadence possible, though they don't fit into any one individual pillar. Now buckle in, kids, for the most boring,
I mean exciting part of formal analysis. Defining terms.